This ain't just a song, it's a battle for the truth with a reggae rhythm. We'll make a move, we fight for recognition, we won't be denied. This war cry, it's our time to rise. This war cry, it's our time to rise. Gun Hall, San Jones, Yamassee, Seminoles, to live forever. This ain't just a song, it's a battle for the truth with a reggae rhythm. We'll make
CO, Halito, how you doing, cuz?
What's going on with you? Estamos aquí. Estamos. What's going on?
I don't know why there's an echo. I'm gonna try to fix it. It's an echo. Oh, they
How's
dirty.
everybody in the chat? How's everybody in the chat? Hense. Hense Eske. Amy Healy. All right.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, thank you, Wado Yakoki, Shona Bishi, everybody for tuning in. I'm excited about our podcast today. What about you, cuz?
Yeah, we hold off last week.
Well, you already know what it was. It was serious health.
Yes.
Serious health.
And I'm
Yes.
glad all is well. I'm glad all is well.
Right. Yes. So our special guest is in the building. Cuz you want to do the honors and I'm going to add my.
All right. I know y'all see up there, Mico, Sekhu, Hadjo-Gentle of the Yamassee, tribe with Seminole. He's also a family member of mine, my little cousin, and he just had a birthday, so welcome to the 50th club.
Yes. Welcome.
I gotta send him I gotta send him an AARP card.
Yeah. Happy
Yeah,
birthday, Mico.
yeah, yeah. And he's a firefighter. That's his occupation. But he is a jack of all trades. He's also a music producer. Um, he's also an author and a writer. Um, yeah, he all his accolades and everything speaks for itself. He has so many that I can't even much go down the line with it. So, is he in the backdrop already? Or
Oh
what?
yeah. He's in the building. You didn't hear me. He's in the
He's in
building.
the building. He's in the
Yeah.
building.
The
He's in the
hidden
building.
eagle has landed.
The scream of the eagle.
Yes.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun show, and and it would be better if y'all give us your participation as well. Ask questions and be respectable with your questions. Is all we ask. Come in love, and you get love back. So with no further ado, be Maku.
Yes, I want to add
Come
something
on in.
before we
Oh, go
bring me
ahead.
on. I gotta say that I have honor and respect, big respect. When I first saw him on social media, and I'm like, wait a minute, he looked like my people. He looked like my people. I had a strong sense of pride. So I'm coming to y'all with honor and respect for Mico, Sekhu, Hadjo-Gentle. Like Cuz said, he's a jack of all trades. He also check out his YouTube. He also has like a indigenous cartoon where he teaches Hapiti. Um, he's been in numerous documentaries. He's inscribed a book. He's a producer. He's the principal chief of the Yamassee tribe of Seminoles, and I am giving a warm welcome, a fiery welcome to Mico Sekhu.
Chintamo, can y'all hear me? Can y'all hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
we hear you loud and clear.
That's what I was more concerned about was the audio. Thank y'all so much for the introduction, my family. Of course, it's customary
Heliopis.
to introduce us.
Heliopis Maku.
Yeah. Chintamo hitoklo. Ani miki siku holam hachutalami Yamassee Hadjo. Miku Yamassee yakte. Fuse Arapaka Abiyaka Hadjo Tukasi Matle Seminole Yate. Traditional for us just to introduce ourselves, and it's what I do every time I do any speaking engagement or whatnot. I am Chief Sekhu Hadjo of the Yamassee Indian tribe, the head chief of the tribe and nation. I am a descendant of two head chiefs of the Seminoles, one being the warrior and medicine man Sam Jones, the other one being John Hicks on my mother's side. So I have two dynamics going on. But as y'all said, it really hit home that I am 50 now. Like I don't feel 50. You know what I mean? Like it's like I think I'll be there when we get to 60. I think like 60 is it, because you know in the European scriptures they say 120 years that the Creator said you're gonna be here. So it's like Steve Warrior said we get to 60, then we'll accept being that half a century old thing. But thank y'all so much, and of course I wanted to be here on my birthday, and I wanted to bless y'all, my family. To be able to talk about me on my 50th birthday. It didn't work out that way, but it is what it is. But thank y'all so much.
Yes.
Oh, my pleasure, my pleasure. And I'd like to say peace and greetings to everybody in the chat. Please like and subscribe, and share this with your family and your friends. This is very historical for us. You know what I'm saying? To have
we want for the history book. We want for the history book.
A living chief that's not that's not on the other side, you know what I'm saying? That's live, and also in the history book, you know what I'm saying? So yeah,
right.
Somebody that looked like you and I.
Yeah. I think if we started out with just that alone, because we as people of color, and I'm gonna use that word very loosely, we as people of color have had many different role models throughout our lives. Us being in that 50 club, we can't understand the dynamics of what our parents and their role models were, and those who accomplished many great things before ourselves. But even within that, having that aspect sometimes is overwhelming to know that, yes, I have been in documentaries. I am in a history book in South Carolina. I'm one of the only chiefs of color that has been and put into a history book that the children are actually learning about. That is a dynamic within itself. And that's an accomplishment that I would think, I don't care whether you understand who we are or believe who we are or not, that I think that's an accomplishment that needs to be rewarded, because that's just not me. That is not about me. That is about the Yamassee people as a whole. That is an accomplishment for anyone who identifies themselves as a Seminole, a Yamassee, a Creek, a Muskogee, a Freedman, however you identify yourself. That is an accomplishment for all of us, you know what I mean? Because they are not putting people that look like us in the history books. So, that sometimes gets overwhelming, because that reality does set in. And it's like, how do you top that? You know what I mean? Like, how do you top that?
Yeah, that's monumental. Like, that spoke volumes to me. Like, it just in people's eyes, that solidifies you. Like, they don't just put anybody in a history book. Let's be clear. So it's official. I just gotta add that.
All right.
And then another thing is, it actually gives people of color to start doing their investigation and their research on their family to see who is who, And you have people that do their genealogy, you have people that do the DNA test and everything, and you the information in wow,
Yeah.
the information in the investigation is endless. It never stops.
Well, let's do one better. Let's take people back in time, and let's talk about 13 years ago. Just we'll start with 13 years ago, when before all of this now that just seems to be normal to people didn't exist. And myself and a few others was talking about the history of the people of color and how we were misclassified and how we were who we were. Let's talk about that and being on that island alone, because that's where we were. We were on an island alone. We was talking about this history, and there was a lot that came with that. There was a lot of ridicule. There was a lot of backbiting. There was a lot of negativity and hate that had to be dealt with. And for the most part, when you're in my position, I was dealing with it alone. This is before, I was bringing family members and tribal members in, and Paul, before, you would step up and bull and start being security for me and things like that. You know, it was a lonesome feeling. I'm not going to say scary at all because I'm a warrior. I'm built for this. But it was a feeling of being a person on an island. And people don't understand that you know, when you research and you go back and you look at all the YouTube videos and you look at that, you had several different dynamics when it came from me. You know, I was, and I am still a music producer, songwriter, and all this other stuff, you know, because that's where I came from for us, the industry that I was in. But then when it came to the history and the knowledge of our people, you know, I was one of the very few people that was out there on the YouTube, on the platform, putting yourself out there, talking about what is now becoming common knowledge. So I'm happy to see the progression of where we are right now, to the point I don't have to talk about the history anymore. I don't have to talk about and prove to people who we are no more. I don't even think that's a conversation we need to be having at this point, you know, about who we are and if are there Indians who are Black Indians. No, it's been proven time and time again. You got great people like Dan Calloway, you got the research guy, you got our own people, Issa Wadi, you know what I mean? You have engine mechanics, you know, with Darius. You have so many different people now.
I was just trying to show this picture.
Oh, okay. But you have so many different people now that are out here in the forefront, you know, TikTok, C3 Mommy, you know what I mean? It's so many signs of consciousness for like, it's so many of them guys that I follow now that I'm so happy that I can call my nieces and nephews and family that are now taking on the fight of correcting history and proving it and showing that the history that we talked about and what we've been talking about all those years is valid. If you choose to overlook this now, it's just because you choose to do it. But you know, now that the paradigm has changed, if y'all noticed, because of conversations that I had years ago, and I talked about our red brothers and sisters. And let me say this before I even get to this conversation, that nothing I'm saying will be a negative connotation on my brothers and sisters that are considered the red man or the modern day Native Americans, because I have many brothers and sisters who are my family, who come to us 100%. That's always known who we were and who they are to us. Okay, so I want to make sure I'm clear on that. But now it just seems even more intriguing and even more fascinating to see the other side of our indigenous bloodlines now coming into their reality of their origin story and who they are and the history before they knew it. You know what I mean? Now with the invent of Google and the research that everybody's doing, now they're coming into understanding what we've been saying for a while. Like you haven't been the only ones here on this planet when it comes to North America's concerned, that we're the first people. So I'm fascinated to see where this is going. I'm fascinated to see that a lot of our people now are starting to unify and come together. There's still, of course, a lot of ignorance out there and hypocrisy. There's still a lot of people who still take on, you know, the old colonization thought process and mindset of that racism. But for the most part, I think with what you all are doing and the wealth of information that you all are trying to share, Pa and Christina, that, you know what I mean, we will overcome that as well. But you know, there's still now the dynamics of the wording, how we want to identify ourselves and how we want to be labeled and how we want to be, you know, seen within the indigenous community. You know, are you Black Seminole? Are you a Black Cherokee? Are you a Black Creek? You know, it's now those words that are now being misnomered and used now, because we can't deny that you don't exist, but now you're just identified as a Black and a Black and a Black, when before there was never those words ever used. You know what I mean? There was never a word called, or there was never a tribe or people ever called Black Seminoles. You were just a Seminole, you know. And so now it's tackling those dynamics and understanding, you know, that reality, which we have to start changing the conversation and stop falling victim to these words of being Afro, Black, or whatever the word is, or the pre-word is to whatever you want to call yourself, because these words didn't exist. If you were in Barbados or Cuba, you was not considered a Black Cuban. You were not a Black Barbadian. You were not a, you know what I mean? That's like calling a Jamaican a Black Jamaican. You know what I mean? You were just what you were. And so we need to understand the same dynamics. I was just having a conversation with Steve Warrior, and he told me to tell y'all, Chintamo. We were just talking about the use of wording and how people have used words throughout the past. And so the best example I can give you, because this is a situation now that is coming to fruition, and it's a part of that new fight now, because okay, now we don't have to worry about were there Indians that look like me, or did they look like us, or did they, were identified as copper tone Indians. Now the dynamics is okay, well, yeah, we accept you all, but you were black Seminoles, and you were black this, and y'all were Negroes that interjected, and so you're still trying to put that African tie into us and still separate us from our nationality. So now let's talk about that. Let's talk about, we didn't call ourselves, nor the history called us Black Seminoles or Black Yamassee, right? And that was the dynamic that I was trying to get people to understand as Yamassee, because remember, the word Creek didn't exist. Muskogee did not exist as a tribe of people. That was a language. That's what they call Maskukali. And when you say Seminole, that didn't exist. So what were the people called before that, right? And we're slowly waking up to the Yamassee being the mother tribe, but that's a conversation for a whole nother piece. You know what I mean? Because when you start saying that, then people feel like, you are basically spitting on the history that they've learned and come to understand by their European colonizers, who again had a mission. There is nothing that we talk about that cannot be proven when I talk about our part in history and or the word Seminole as a whole. But to go back to the use of the words Black, it didn't exist. And when you start looking up these images of the Seminoles and you start depicting, and I don't know if y'all have images of the Ruby Tiger and the pictures that I have put in my book, when you look at these images of these Black Seminole women, and I say Black loosely because that's the one you can understand where I'm going with it, and you see these women who had their hair in buns and bangs like women wore in the 70s and 80s and 90s and continue to wear today. There was no Black Seminole before their name. She was considered a Seminole squaw, right? So we have to understand that language and how it's being used today is the same way it's being used today. In the 70s and 80s, I think the men used to call each other pimps and slick, and it was a way that they identified. Now today, the guys are calling themselves my guy. What's up, bro? But it doesn't denote who you are. And we have to look at it the same way. When people say Black Seminole, that does not mean African. That does not mean anything other than you're trying to give a description, because truly those who are now considered Seminole, who are of lighter skin, is the first image that people come to their mind. But again, if we go into the conversation now of Seminole, which is another conversation within itself, and you look at the root of the word, because the word in our language, what I teach at Fort Mose, Seminole, is actually a Hichiti word, which means runaway. But the word that was originally being used for the Seminoles were Semaroons, right? The Maroon people. So what is the root word of Maroon? But in our language, Seminole meant runaways. It didn't mean wild ones. And it's so fascinating to see the modern day Seminoles and Seminole people today that use that word and say unconquered in the same breath, because you can't be considered wild ones, which is why they added that to the context. I want you guys to understand that. The word wild one was only added because the word Seminole does not mean wild ones. It doesn't mean that. It means runaway, literally. But the reason why wild ones was interjected was to take on the mentality and mindset of modern day Seminoles, which is to be the unconquered. Okay, so if we are unconquered, we can't be unconquered. We was identified as slaves, and that's what Seminoles were considered, runaways, right? Runaways from what? The slave plantation. So if you're running away from a slave plantation, you can't be considered an unconquered person because you were put into slavery. But I don't want to open up that can of worms. I just want to simply say that there's still so much we have to get past, and history has to get past before we can even have those conversations and those dynamics of acceptance. And I know I've been talking a lot, so I'm gonna let you guys ask some questions.
No, but you kind of touched on one of my questions that I had about self-recognition versus the world or the government recognition. You kind of spoke on that, so I appreciate it.
Well, you said kinda, so what part didn't I fill in for you?
No, I said you covered it.
Okay.
You covered it. Huh?
All right. We have a guest in the chat that asked the question. Panther Warrior said Mother Tribe, ? Can you explain how they are the Mother Tribe?
So when we say mother tribe, and that's a great question, Panther Warrior, and this isn't something that I'm saying and making up. This is something that history has said. So when you look at several different major tribes in the Southeast, historical references, they all reference the Yamassee. It said, and you can, again, I'm never going to say anything that can't be Googled or looked up or researched. So when it came to the Yamassee, they always talked about the Seminole. When it was always known when the Yamassee bloodline was shown and when they were dark skinned. And it was always talking about how the leaders at that time, Micanopy and Alligator, were of the Yamassee bloodline. And, that's just a brief synopsis, and that's not an exact quote. So when it comes to the Seminoles, yes, the mother tribe to them is the Yamassee people. And this is documented, guys. Go into our Instagram account. I've been showing you guys where the U.S. government has us documented as the actual Seminoles. There was no mixture of tribes. There was no other tribe. They said the Oconee Hichiti speaking Yamassee were the actual Seminoles. So that's one part of that when it comes to the mother tribe aspect of it. And that's something that I'm still waiting on people to catch up on and really get, because I've been dropping this for years now. When it comes to the other aspect of it, the Cherokee is considered one of the largest tribes in the United States. They boast having the largest membership in the United States. And even when it comes to the Cherokee called us their ancient people. They wouldn't fight us. There was the conjurer who would not fight the Yamassee because he said we were their ancient people. And so, even when you look at that dynamics and when you look at the Cherokee that did fight us, who were these people? I can show you where these Cherokee that were fighting us were mostly of white men or the $5 Indians who, had became Cherokee by money or monetary and was mixing in with the women. The same thing that's happening now in a lot of tribes. And then those were the ones who fought us. But the original Cherokee people, who are dark-skinned people, would not fight us because they identified us as their ancient people. When you look at the ChitoPa has the same almost word for word verbatim statement as they called us their ancient people. So when you look at this aspect of the Yamassee, and when you look at the fact that the Yamassee people had well over 800-900 towns and villages, and I keep going up with my number because the more I do research, the more I find out how large our chiefdom was. And if you look up before the Cherokee upper and lower region, the Yamassee was the only tribe who had an upper and lower region. So yes, when I say the mother tribe, it is literally that, because you can find remnants and history of our people from the southeast all the way over to Louisiana, when all of that was considered La Florida, and when all of that was a part of the quote Spanish Union. So I don't say that word loosely when I say the mother tribe. I say that because we have been proven to be one of the oldest tribes here in the United States, not just through the name Yamassee. I realize we also had other names like the Iguaha. We also had the name, people, there's a whole thing going on now with the Wali and all this other stuff, and that's a whole nother conversation. But we had, and we are known throughout multiple countries, actually. Our tribal name has spanned through multiple countries, and that's just through the research I've done. So I don't say the mother tribe because I'm trying to boast or make us bigger than what we are. I'm saying this because of the research that I've done personally, that I've witnessed, and I've went down that rabbit hole, and I understood the dynamics of what me going on that rabbit hole would actually be. So I hope that answered your question, but what I would entice anyone to do is do the research yourself and see it for yourself. Don't do a half but research and half tail shallow researching and all this other stuff. Deep dive, because there's so many different narratives in history that will identify and talk about what I just shared with you.
What can you share about your origin story of the Yamassee tribe?
Our origin story is a sacred one. I will only say that we came down with the breath giver. All tribes have an origin story. Ours is one that we came down with the breath giver. And so our story goes inside of our clan stories, and it really boils down to an old Seminole story talking about how the different clans came here with the creator or the great breath giver, and then seeded the planet. But I don't really go deeply into our origin story because it is still sacred to us, and it talks about a whole nother conversation that we have tribally internally.
Right.
Okay. We have another question in the chat. Humble Red Crane asks, what tribe of people do the Yamassee come out of?
What tribe of people do Yamassee come out of?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a lack of understanding because we don't have. Well, let me know. There's no lack of understanding. So, we historically, and again, this is researchable, we are part of the Anasazi. So anyone who's ever heard of the Anasazi before, we are part of that group of people, which ties us into the Istamaya, which is the Totanic, which is why our language, Hichiti, is so closely related, or actually is a derivative of that. Our language actually comes out of the Mayan language. which leads us back to the Anasazi people. And the Anasazi people have a whole nother vast history that is way profound and way deep and very rich in culture. A lot of misunderstanding and misidentification because it deals with cannibalism. It deals with rituals and blood rituals and things like that. And if you need a better resource of understanding, go back to the movie. I think it was what's the one that Mel Gibson did? Apocalypto. Yes. So when you want to look at who we were as a people, that is our quote tie-in, which is the Anasazi. But again, it goes much deeper because the Yamassee is one of the only tribes who had a variety of derivatives of spelling of our names, and we were called many different things based on many different people.
Yeah, you touched on another question I was going to ask about the It's a Maya connection. You mentioned the Anasazi, and you covered that.
Thank you. That's one of the things I try to tell people is that, I wanted to know more about our people. I want to know more about our ancestors. And so I had to really deep dive, and I had to go into articles, and I had to go into documents and books that weren't readily available to everybody. And, I tell this in every interview I do, like I got books all around me right now. And that's how much reading I do. I've read everybody's books. I've read their historical narratives. I got the South Carolina journals, Indian laws, rights, I read. And so I don't just take information from the internet and then make it applicable to my conversations or understanding of my people. I wanted to know how we all tied in together as human beings, because truly that's the whole thing. No matter what you believe in, whether you're an atheist or whether you believe in Allah or Yeshua or whoever you believe in, everyone said there's a creator. So my goal was, how do we tie back to each other as a people? And that's my research. That's where my research led me to, just understanding the tie-ins to the people. What were we all called before the Europeans called us this? The word Creek is a European word. You know what I'm saying? So what we called before then, Cherokee is even a messed up derivative of dialect and tongue. So when I understood the dynamics of our people and understood that I wanted to find out through our oral history, through our origin story, how we went back to the creator, it takes you down this rabbit hole. And then, as I shared in many different interviews, when you start getting pieces of the puzzle, my family, when you start getting pieces of the puzzle, you get this big picture. And you ain't got to even have the final piece to get like, oh, I now understand why history has been tainted. And that's the thing that has been so overwhelming to me, because I've been saying this almost over a decade now. And now people are unraveling the BS. They're unraveling the narrative. They're unraveling the stories. People are diving into articles and stuff that I didn't even read, right? And I think that was so fascinating, that to see people start to unfold this history that has never been talked about before. And they're creating their own platforms now. And they're getting this recognition because they're unveiling things that myself, Paul, or any of us could have ever thought that we was going to read or hear. Like once we get locked into certain subjects and topics, we typically stay there and go in. But now people are starting to be like, oh, did you know this? And did you know this? And did you know this? So, I'm loving, this whole reawakening of our people, where now we're equal and it's on an equal playing field, and knowledge is readily available to everybody. But I want to say this as well. This is why it was, and I keep saying this, and probably you know what I'm going with this. This is why it was illegal for us to read. This is why it was illegal, for these exact reasons now. That door is opening, that the information is being told, and they're like, you all are great people. Y'all are more great than we've ever told y'all. So I'm just loving every bit of it.
Awesome. Someone asked, when did the Yamassee enter the Southeast?
When did we enter the Southeast? There was never a point in time we wasn't. That's equivalent to saying, and here's what I want to say to you. No man can tell you when another being was here. Like there was no one or nothing that was recording. We didn't record, nor did we write down to say when we were here and when we weren't here. Even when it comes to the Europeans, they can pinpoint through DNA that there were, like, for example, the Siberian Native Americans, the Mongoloid Native Americans. Now they can put them at a place and time, AD, at a certain time. but they also tell you that there was another man that existed and lived here way before that, but they can't tell you when he got here. So for me to sit here and try to answer that would be egotistical of me to even try to answer when did we actually get here in the Southeast, because science haven't even been able to prove exactly what man, as you all know, they're finding older and older bones every chance they get. Here in Allendale, the Topper site, they've already dated us back here to be, I think it's 25 or 30,000 years ago, that they found the oldest artifacts and bones here of Yamassee people. So I couldn't tell you that beyond that scope of understanding and information that's been given so far. Again, I wasn't there, you know what I mean? And nor have I read any documentation that can definitively put our people here in the Southeast.
Right. Yeah, that was a Humbly Red's question. Right.
Thank you guys for the questions. I appreciate it.
Yeah, okay. I had a question about the green corn. Is that the main celebration that is like publicized? I know the Yamassee have many ceremonies, just like the Anianwaya, they have many ceremonies, but the importance of the green corn, could you break that down?
Yes.
Or
yes,
yeah.
I'll break down what I can share.
Okay.
As you know, a lot of what we do is sacred. That is not publicized. The importance of the green corn is our new year. A lot of what matter of fact, this is funny to me, because a lot of what Americans celebrate is Native American in culture. And I'm not saying that Europeans didn't do it before they got here, but the concept of a new year, a new celebration, is, from my understanding, a large part of who we were as a tribe. So our new year started when the new harvest. You got to realize that after the freeze and after winter and things like that, when we were able to harvest the ripening of corn, or not even just corn, any vegetable, when it was feasible to actually harvest vegetables and then go hunting, because animals are procreating at a certain time, they're having babies at a certain time of the year, and so now the bounty of deer meat or whatever else is all good at a certain point in time. That is what green corn is for us. It's the celebration of a new year. It is our time to ask the ancestor for whatever we may not have had the year before or prior year. If we had a lot of death, if we had famine, if we had war, this was our time to ask the Creator to bestow upon us certain things that we might have missed, and it's just basically a celebration. But it's a part of our renewal, and what we do that I can share is we clean our stomp grounds, we clean our ceremonial grounds. We bring new family members to Big Mama, and she's introduced to the new family members and things of that nature. But for the most part, that's what it is for us, along with sacred ceremonial practices and things that we do.
Right. So is there a part of, like, there's different times of the year, right? We know that. So like the lighting of a new fire, like you have the new fire, and then it's supposed to stay lit, like the ancestral flame. What is the importance of fire to the Yamassee or to yourself?
So if we simplify it and dumb it down, I hate to take away the spirituality of a thing, because you got to realize when our people was coming in, doing their thing, their understanding of a lot of information that science has now given us wasn't the same. Like, we understood always that every living thing had life, even fire. We looked at fire as sacred because sacred was considered the grandfather. It was always wanting to consume. Grandfather always was hungry and wanted to eat. And that's because in order to keep a fire lit, it needs to consume. The fire constantly being lit was one of necessity. If we want to dumb it down and simplify it, it was one of necessity. When you're living in a village, they didn't have the ability to go pop open their stove or turn on a microwave. They didn't have that. They had to keep the fire going. They had to keep the fire lit. And even with the celebration of a new fire, extinguishing the old fire and in with the new, when you have too many ashes in a hole, it's hard to keep the fire going, because the fire is sinking into that hole of ashes, if we want to simplify that whole conversation. But if we look at it from a spiritual thought process, if that fire went out for us, it was like, wow, the creator took away the fire, or this person, didn't keep the fire going, that fire which was sacred to us, because this is how we eat, this is how we cook, this is how we're making soups, so it had a very large and important role into our lives. But again, the sacredness came from us understanding that all things is living. Everything and every inanimate object is living and it wants to live. So we understood the dynamics of that aspect of it. Like even when it comes to eating food, that prayer that people give now that they're giving, the Creator thanks for tribal people went to the animal, thanking that animal for giving its life and its spirit, for us to consume and for us to continue on and live here. You know what I mean? And we can get into the spiritual realm of this, but I'm gonna try to keep it in that context so our people can really comprehend, that we look at the fire as sacred because of what it did for our people, and that it was a necessity, from staying warm to cooking food to boiling water to keeping, you know what I mean? So, when you look at it for what it is, just understand the dynamics of why it was sacred to our ancestors. Because again, they didn't have lights, they didn't have matches, they didn't have lighters, to create a fire. That was something they really needed to keep lit throughout the year until they no longer could do it. And so green corn was that time that they chose to do it. But trust and believe me, it wasn't just put out. Because I watched my uncles and grandmothers now when they took the fire out during our green corn up in North Florida. It was never the fire just extinguished. It was always ambers that was put into something so there was a flame always being carried on. And then as they cleaned out the pits and put new, kindling in, and then used them ambers to reset the fire, that's what happened. But I want us to think about it from the standpoint of just being realistic. We didn't have the ability to make fire like that.
Yeah, it was hard work.
Very hard work.
Yeah.
Wale Origins had asked the question, where may we find the quote with the ChitoPa, because they use the name for the Wale.
Well, it's in there. It's not hard. Matter of fact, I put it into the book. If you look at the book, into our book, I quoted inside of that book. But you can look at the ChitoPa. It's not hard to find. You got to do a little research, okay? And this isn't an egotistical statement. This is just do a little research, and you'll find the ChitoPa people identifying the Yamassee as their ancient people. And matter of fact, one of the it goes hand in hand with children of the sun. They also talk about us being children of the sun, which meant basically a depiction of our dark skin. One thing you will never get out of me dynamically is, because I have so much information in my head, is the exact quote, exact books, because I've read so much, and I promise you, I can quote you 1,000,001 references, and probably very few that I can remember exactly where I got the reference from, because of all the books I have read throughout my lifetime. But if it is a situation where you can't find it, I'll make sure that I send it over to Paul or put it on my Facebook page immediately so that you can find it. But I want to say, matter of fact, I want to say it is in the ChitoPa's book, actually. It is inside of a ChitoPa book. They talk about the ChitoPa history, if I'm not mistaken.
All right. There's another question by Wale where he said, where is the Yamassee place of origin, and what their original language at the game can join?
Yeah, he touched on the origin, but the language, what did you say about the language?
Our language, and I touched on that as well when I said that the Hichiti language is a derivative and comes from Iskamaya. It's a part of the Totanic language series.
Yeah, he mentioned that earlier. Yeah. Now, Panther Warrior asked the question, how did y'all end up on the coast? Talk about, when did the Yamassee end up on the coast?
Well, again, you're talking about history that no person can talk about. This goes back to, and I don't want to make no one feel stupid when I answer this, it goes back to, again, who can dynamically say when. You have different, so the Europeans would have had to ask elders or tribal members what their origin story was or where they came from. And when you talk about the Yamassee story, this is one of the stories that's not told by many, because remember, we spoke two different languages, which was one of trade, and then the Hichiti language, which we didn't really teach to many people. Matter of fact, it's why the Miccosukee people today, the traditional Miccosukee, don't want the language written down in books or taught that way. But when you talk about when did we get to the coast and the East Coast, no one could definitively say when we did or didn't. A lot of it is just speculation, and we need to understand that dynamics of it. It's speculation because the Europeans can only go by what they see or what they assume. No different than, you got to realize, when it came to the Yamassee people, they were saying that the Yamassee, according to De Leon and quadriphages, was from were Africans that came pre-Columbus, right? And so that was a statement that was made in the 1890s, according to the Department of the Interior census records, where that statement was made. Now that statement is null and mute because they're saying that the Yamassee been here tens of thousands of years prior to that statement, right? So as the Europeans start researching, and the only thing that really can answer those questions, Panther Warrior, and again, this is conversations that I want people to think about. The only thing that answers those questions is DNA. The older they find bones in these regions, the older the history goes, because now once they find these bones, then now say, and they'll tell you this every 10 years, they're like, oh, we got to rewrite history because what we found now to be this isn't true, and blah, blah, and blah, blah, blah. So, you know, I mean, for me to sit here and say one thing, I would make myself look asinine and ignorant because I'm not the one testing this DNA that they're finding. I'm not the one that's doing the research into the DNA, and nor am I, doing carbon dating on the bones of our ancestors. These are things that we all depend on the Europeans to tell us. And we know, again, as history has shown us, we're only getting half of the story. So the Yamassee may have been here 25,000 years now, which is what I said earlier, that the topper site says we've been here in the East Coast now for the last 25,000. Next year, it may be changed. It might have been 50,000. You get what I'm saying? So y'all looking for answers from me that I don't have because, again, I only can give you what's being told.
Right. And here's a book source. If you want to know anything about the Yamassee that is public knowledge, check out this book, Yamassee Culture, Heritage, and Practices. All right. This is inscribed by Mico, Sekhu, Hadjo.
Yes. And I battled with myself even making that public, but because we're not giving these sacred information out, and I wanted people to see the historical documents and the narratives and the court documents to, my goal when I wrote that book originally was to unequivocally say, hey, listen, because it was a big deal about being a Black Indian, that I wanted to disprove that thought process in theory. So when I wrote that book, I was sharing, firstly, the thought process, and what I first tackle about is I tackle race. Like, hey, this ain't about races and about white or blacks, because y'all know that I don't see color when it comes to that. I do see attacks. If you attack me, no matter what your color is, you attack my people, I'm going to come for you. You know what I mean? Because I can sit here and tell you how all of us have some kind of faults in ourselves, no matter what tribe you come from. But I immediately go into that book. I talk about color and how white, Black, Hispanic, Mexican, whatever you identify as, we're all human beings. We're all family. And if you ever known me and if you ever came to any function I've ever done on any green corn, y'all know I make everybody hold hands, put their feet on the ground, take their shoes off, and we all are praying together, and we're looking at each other, and we're in one unison. So that's the first part I did in that book. The second part was in tackling the court documents and saying, this is what the courts were saying with the law proprietors. This is what the colonists, was going through and dealing with. This is what our ancestors were dealing with. This is what their plea and their struggle was. This is what they were going to them and why the Yamassee War happened. I went through that to show unequivocally, this is what we were identified. This is how we was unidentified. This is how that information was miscategorized. This is how we got put into our situation, so that this ain't Chief Sekhu saying this is history saying. And then I go into the practices and some of the traditional foods and things like that of what we did, how we ate, and how we maintained without giving up anything sacred.
Right. I did want to share the cartoon while I'm looking for it. Pod, you have any questions or comments?
You talking about Sanuti?
Oh, basically, all the comments are in the. All the questions are in the comment section, and I have a comment that's from Humbly Red Crane. He asks, "What is the Yamassee role with bringing the corn to the southeast?"
We don't have a role in the southeast. A lot of that stuff, because corn isn't from my understanding, corn wasn't a fruit that was what's the word I'm looking for? It was not, is not. It's like horses. Horses aren't originally from here. But corn isn't something that was here. It was bought over here.
Okay, so the difference between maize, and corn, there's a difference.
It's a big difference. Thank you. And thank you all for the questions as well. And the questions is what makes a great interview. Oh, she done pulled up Sanuti. Yes.
Yeah, because they were asking about the language, and this is a certain way to learn about the language.
And let me say this as well, man. Like, and I want to commend all of our people who are finding themselves, or who've always known who they are. I want to commend you because you all are some of the most ingenious, astute people I've ever met in my life. I've never had more intriguing questions and conversations than with the people who have or are Indigenous people or Aboriginal people. I think we have some of the most intellectual and thought-provoking conversations in the world. But I also think we're our own worst enemies. Because now that we are focused on, and now we understand who we are, what's next? What's next? We know who we are. History's proven that. Now that you know who you are, okay, the argument is no longer a fight. What do you do next?
Learn your people's ways.
Learn your people's ways.
Yeah.
But learning our ways still does not allow Christina and Pa to be about their tribe all the time. To be who we're supposed to be, which is teaching and educating our children all the time. Because you got to eat. Paul got to eat. We still got to pay quote bills. We still got to survive. And so it's fascinating to me that everyone now is focusing on and debating each other, because that's the thing that hurts me the most, to watch us debate and clash about who this, who's the original. How does that pay your bills? How does that feed you? That's why I don't get into those conversations like, well, how old is the Yamassee? How is that going to feed you? How's that going to pay your lights? How's your babies, if you have children, how they're going to eat because you know how old the Yamassee are? So I'm sitting back and I'm watching this clashing of information and everybody's history and who's who and who's not. It's an ongoing thing now within the Black Seminole community, because everybody thinks their story is the story of everybody. And that's not the case. You're talking about thousands of years of information and centuries of information that you can get, the information that is achievable, but you're talking about centuries of information that you're trying to wrap up into a couple of years and then make it speak for everyone and everything. Okay, so everyone's bumping heads about who information is correct, whose information is not, when truly there is a movie, there is an episode, there is a multi-series, multi-episode movie called The Indigenous People or Aboriginal People of Color. This is not the Matrix trilogy. This is not Terminator 5, 6, 7, 8. This is a movie that can last for decades if we tell all the stories, all the historical narratives, all the memoirs, all of it. Listen, so there is no one person that is correct about everything. We have to stop that. We have to stop this here and move on to the next. The moving on to the next for me is what we're doing. We just dropped out our very first and cryptocurrency called Cahokia, right? What is that about? Empowering people that's indigenous, right? That's one of the memes we dropped, the meme coins we did, the Breaking Bad bear. It was our test subject. We got several ones that we're releasing, but Cahokia is the brainchild. The ticker is CHKA, Cahokia. It's on the Solana network. What does that do? Well, I'm not worried about who I am no more, because I know who I am. I've proven who I am. I know I'm indigenous. History's proven I'm indigenous. Piggyback off my facts. How does that feed my babies? Financially, as nations, the whole identity of being recognized, it always boils back down to money. Federal recognition boils back down to money. I don't care how you spin it. It boils back down to money, because we have a conversation with the federal government. We help influence laws. We have a working relationship with the United States government. We have a working relationship with local government and the local officials and law enforcement. So that's not a problem. They respect our sovereignty. They don't bother us. They let us be. but I got to feed my family. I got to feed the tribe. So it's amazing to me to watch how people are not focused on the things that are important as nations. If you call yourself a nation, then you should be worried about how do I take care of my people? Not worried about what you call me. Remember, like, listen, what people, your grandma used to say, you can call me anything, but Jesus, don't, you can call me anything. You call me a liar, you can do all that stuff there. Just don't put your hand in my pocket, right? So I don't care what people call me or identify. What I do know is that my babies have to eat, my wife has to eat, the tribe has to eat, right? And so instead of the greatest minds ever who will debate you about how an ant poops at night, we can't come together to create our financial well-being, because at the end of the day, that's what it's about. So I'm past all the debating part and the origin and the original who's this. I don't care about none of that. I care about how you all going to eat. When the lights get turned off, and I say this in all my videos, when the lights get turned off and COVID, damn, it was it for y'all. Where do you go? How will you eat? How will you survive? And it's not about the money, it's how you use the money. So we have the money to buy the farming equipment, to buy the land, to buy the cattle, to be able to produce food, because money won't have value when it's all said and done. If there's a major catastrophe here, if a meteor hit the planet, it's still gonna be about survival. But if you don't have the resources to do it, what then? So my focus has been on the ability to be able to now produce our own wealth, right? And so everyone says we don't have the ability to print money. Well, now we do with the digital outcome. So we are focused on, and what our project has been is Cahokia coin. We jumped into the meme coins like Breaking Bad Bear and Turbo Turtle and a couple others just to test the market and see how it's going to be accepted. And it's widely accepted. I can't make this up. And I've been in contact with some of the greatest minds there is when it comes to this younger generation. And they have taught me how this thing works. And so we minted our own coin, Cahokia coin. It is available for Native people. It's going to be available for our website. If you're enrolling to our nation and tribe, you will have to use our cryptocurrency as a form of payment, which means you're going to have to get some level of competency, because this is the future. I'm going to force you guys' hands into getting into this information, because this is the future, right? And then from there, I've already started personally coding our own blockchain. We have our blockchain waiting right now on a server so that we can create digital coins, and other tribes can come to us now and create their cryptocurrency instead of having to use someone else's blockchain on their system to create their wealth. So what are we doing to move ourselves forward? That is the question I have for us now. The whole identity thing is not even arguable. Let's let everybody else talk about it. Let everybody else fight. If you call yourself a leader of any people, if you are truly engulfed in the well-being of people as a whole, then this should be the next level of understanding, because they're showing you they're going to the stars, they're going to other planets now. They're not taking money, okay? They're not taking paper money. They've been for a while telling you everything is going digital, guys. But now there is no more excuses for us as tribes. We literally can print our own money and support ourselves. And tribes who are going for federal recognition, the main reason why they're doing this is for the financial well-being and being able to take care of their people and being able to provide health care and all these different things. But you don't have to do that no more, because you're still asking for a handout. You're still asking for a handout. And when the federal government shuts down, as they have shown you, what happened to the tribes and people who depended on that money? They had to wait. They had to wait. Meantime, guess what happens? My stomach don't wait when it's hungry. My children aren't waiting when they're hungry. They have to eat. We have to start getting back into taking control of our own situations and our own financial well-being. So as much as I would love to answer 1,000 questions about the origin of the Yamassee and who's the oldest and language and all these different things, guys, all that stuff is public information. What my job is for you all, as a chief, as a leader, whether you're in my tribe or not, is to create you the ability to be able to take care of yourself and be able to provide for your family. And so all I say to you is look up Cahokia. We got a website. It hasn't been completed yet, CahokiaCoin.com. We haven't even started on it, but the coin is valid. It is active. We are creating our own blockchain. The longer you hold on to the coin, the more the coin value increases. This, again, is us giving our own 40 acres and a mule to ourselves instead of asking for it. We as Yamassee have never asked for nothing, and we're not going to start asking for anything, okay? So this is our way of being in control of our future. Cahokia coin, look it up on the Solana network, guys. You Google it, or you go on the deck screener and Google it and buy it. Get you a Phantom wallet, download, get you some Sol or Solana coins, and swap it, transfer it over, and get the Cahokia coin. I promise you, when we're done with this blockchain, that you're going to say, I wish I had listened to the chief, and I wish I had got into it, because we're doing things never been done before. And before I leave this planet, I'm going to make being Yamassee great again.
Yes. That's right. All right. All right. So, hey, enough said. Anything else you want to touch on? Before we let you go, we do want you to plug everything. You did just plug, the coin, that whole thing, the language teachings on YouTube. Anything else you want to plug, where they can find you or anything?
You know what I mean? For the most part, the only thing I want to plug is us. And what I mean by that is I am pro us, no matter what your color is. If it's about unity, I'm there for you. If it's about moving the people forward, I'm there for you. You know what I'm saying? I've been in the music industry 30 plus years of my life. I've worked with all the artists you guys listen to, love, from the Isley Brothers to Jaheim to Sean Kingston, the Dr. Dre, the Eminem, the Snoop Dogg. I've worked with all those guys. I've been a millionaire a couple times, lost it all, regained it, lost it again. Money is not an issue for me. I'm about our people and the progression of our people, because at the end of the day, the money doesn't matter if your people are still starving. Right. And so at this point, now that our people have woken up and they know who they are, they've identified themselves, like, okay, tag, you it. It's on to the next thing. And the next thing is, how can I make sure when my sister comes down, when Christina comes down, she's well taken care of? How can I make sure that when the rest of the tribe is in dire straits and they need something, they're well taken care of? I'm really against the whole federal recognition process as a way for us to take care of ourselves. I do feel, again, that we can do it on our own, and again, I have worn many hats, as Pa said, originalist, historian, author, musician. Matter of fact, I'm still putting music out, you know what I mean? And if y'all haven't listened to one of the songs y'all were listening to, is Aya Harjo. So I wrote that. I produced it. It is released. Go check out Aya Harjo. That's a whole story within itself, because there's a secret background and some information. Just listen to the music, y'all guys. Tell me what you think about Aya Harjo. She has dope music. Again, I wrote it and produced it, put it out to pass a message to our women and sisters. There are several different tracks on there that I really hope that our people hone in on to, which is War Cry, Copper Tone Indians, Indigenous Flame, Destination Me. So I try to write the songs to have a blend of culture and then modern feel for our young women who are living in today's world, who's battling between their cultural identity and then just being and living normal. So the music was set up to have all of that battle and struggle, that warrior that most women are, that fight for what's right in their spirit and soul, but then being caught up in wanting to be glamorous and fame and trying to find love and trying to be this person, but being torn between the two. So, I have songs in there that, really embellish what our sisters are going through, which is why I pushed Aya Harjo first as the first project that I wanted to release. But again, what it really still boils back down to is the financial well-being of our people. With the digital currency and the cryptocurrency, we no longer have to be enslaved to a system where we are waiting for monies and handout. Now with cryptocurrency, we create that. So for everyone who early adopts the coin, who buys the coin now, the more people come in, the more the value comes in because of the scarcity of the coin. Which means if you come in and you purchase the Cahokia coin now, the more people catch on to the use of it and adopt it into their purchases at powwows or their websites and things of that nature, the more value comes increasing, and we become self-made millionaires. What that does in return, it allows us now to be able to create the projects, purchase more land. We don't have to go to government and beg them for our land back. We can just go buy the land back and say, here's a fair price. It's ours anyway, or we can go to court because we got the money for that. So I want us to look at this financial currency thing as one that we must support, not should support, must support, because that's what we've been asking for. But we have to stop waiting for the handouts. This is not a handout. This is an investment into ourselves, because not one person controls this coin. This coin is a community-based coin, and we will be releasing all of the coin to the community, where we don't have no control over it once we have enough people adopt it. So it will be based on, it will be self-sustaining. But that's the only thing I really want to plug, which is the financial stability of our people, and making sure that we are looking at our financial stability and start to invest in ourselves. Because just the way the awakening happened with the Indigenous movement and people became aware, you know, I mean, that I did one video for it, brother, 3 million production. I want to show you how powerful we are. When I met the brother, I think he had maybe 3,000, 4,000 subscribers. He had been trying to get me on for months, you know what I mean? And Caleb, I love him. That's a little brother to me, very intellectual, very smart brother. And he was telling me his story and how he got involved with it. But when I went to him, he had 3,000 or 4,000 subscribers, maybe 5. And I don't think it was 5,000, but we did this one video, and he had videos that went and did 100,000. But within, I think it was 3 to 4 weeks, we went from 10,000 views to 350,000 views on his YouTube channel. And that said everything to me. I may be wrong. I think maybe 250,000 views, but it's one of the numbers. But that said that 250,000 people could resonate with the message, understood what it meant, and shared that with other people. That the message that was given in that video was so, it resonated with people's heart chakras so much so that they had to share it, and that it was viewed a couple 100,000 times, right? And so I'm hoping people understand the dynamics of this video as well, and what has been shared so far as well, and understand the dynamics of what I mean when it comes to this coin. Because if we took that same dynamics with the coin, if 250,000 of us shared this coin, and we all helped that coin net worth at 250,000 people, and this is just a guesstimate, will be worth almost $1 billion. Think about that.
Yeah, that's powerful.
That's very powerful. That's very powerful. And I think if we did that in a 3-week period, think if we shared a coin that we all had stake into, that we purchased $20. So you got to purchase a bunch of it because right now it's so cheap. But if you just purchase $20 of it and you get 10,000 coins, and 3 months from now, that coin that you got 3,000 of, 300,000 other people purchased it, and that $20 investment became $50,000. Think about that. Like, come on. So, you know, that's what I want to say the same way. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Ray Crane asked the question. So if another tribe wants to have their own digital currency, how would they go through you to get their own? Explain.
Great question, because that is what the blockchain is about. That is what native blockchain is about. That's why we're creating the blockchain, because they'll be able to come. It won't be going through us. They will go through the blockchain and create their own cryptocurrency themselves. That's what we want to do, empower other tribes. We're not just empowering the Yamassee. That's the thing I want you to get, that the blockchain and the code that we're creating right now that's sitting on my laptop in the server is about them being able to do just that. However, what we're saying now is, and I don't mind teaching people how to do it. It's not like it's a secret. You can create your own coin now. But what happens is when you get into the market right now, there's something, and if you understand anything about stocks, you have to pair your coin with another asset. And so when you're pairing that coin with another asset, and we had to pair it with Solana. So when you pair it with Solana, Solana's going right now for like $149 a coin. Less than a year ago, you could have got that Solana coin for under a penny. And if you were smart and you had purchased it the same way I'm asking people to do now, because it's not if this coin is going to blow up, it's when it's going to blow up. But if you had purchased that Solana coin a year ago and you had bought 1,000 shares of Solana, multiply that right now times $140. If you had to, just think about it. If you had bought 20,000 coins because it was under a penny, what would your bank look like a year from now? That's an interest rate you won't find at no other bank. So what I'm saying is, we don't mind sharing. Just to answer this question, I don't mind sharing or teaching other tribes how to do this. My thing is, the money that we make off the Cahokia coin will implement our native blockchain. We want to have enough people that are indigenous buying a coin that we can say, now that we know that there's a market for it, here's the blockchain. Here's how you guys create your own infrastructure, and we don't have to depend on Bitcoin, Ethereum, or any of the rest of the coins to make our wealth. The Native American indigenous people need to have their own hand in this cryptocurrency. And this is the only way we're going to do it if we support it. If we're truly who we say we are, we need to support this type of ventures because it only can benefit us. You can buy right now $50 worth of coin, another 100 people can come in and buy, and you can make $500 off that, take out your profit, and keep your $100 in. You've made money. That's what this is about. So if you're interested, just contact us, and we'll see how we can help you out.
I hope that answers your question, Lamont, because Lamont asks if crypto is only successful if the people invest. What's the benefit will the people receive?
There you go. There you go. And that's the truth. And that's what I'm trying to get us to understand, that we have been talking the whole empowerment of the people. We've been talking about unity. We've been talking about being one accord. This is it. We invest in everything. Listen, every time you go and buy this processed hot dogs and hamburger meat and all the other stuff that you're getting, you're investing in somebody else's company. You're investing in somebody else's company. Every time you go and get Apple stock or Amazon stock, you're investing in their company. What are they giving you back? Well, because you purchasing it now instead of getting it when it first came out, you're getting pennies on the dollar on your interest based on if you had invested when they first came out with it, you would probably been a millionaire. But we invest in everybody else other than ourselves. And it goes back to what all the other brothers are saying, from Rizal Islam to the rest of the brothers. When do we invest in ourselves? Because we're giving our money everywhere else but to ourselves and not seeing a kickback from it.
Right.
Every other people, the Chinese, like the Chinese people got hair salons, they sell in black markets. I can sit here and run it down. The Indians got gas stations in black neighborhoods, banks, liquor stores. But what do we have that we can say our own that empowers us, that puts money back in our pocket? Because ain't none of these operations going to black communities. These Chinese restaurants, these Indian gas stations, they do not donate. When I was going to get donations for green corn, when I go to get donations for the children or do events, they don't have no money. But they're making hundreds of thousands of money. They're making more money here in our communities than the average community business. But they will not give back to us. Right. So let's go, family. Let's go. Cahokia coin. Look it up on Solana. The website will be up real soon. And if you don't know the history of Cahokia, look it up. Cahokia was a trade place for our people. It's where we came together. So that was the significance of it, right? It's where we came together in unity, bought and sold and trade from each other. It's where we came to do ceremony. This coin represents all of that for our people.
Yeah, it was the world's biggest mall before the world's biggest mall. Yeah. All right. Well, Chief, we don't want to hold you too long. Pa, what's up? You got any comments or anything?
They have a comment. Someone said, "Don't make the ATL coin and the Bitcoin dominance is too big. It controls the market. If it goes down, the whole market goes down."
Well, that's everything. But see, these are things, again, this is why we need our own blockchain, because we don't want to support those type of adventures, because see, it's a whole nother conversation. But it goes back to things that we can control and can't control. And we need to understand that the only thing we can control is things that we build with our own hands, right? So having our own blockchain, having our own cryptocurrency is something we control. If we don't believe in ourselves, yes, the value will go down, the market will go down. And you'll notice the relevance and symbolism behind when the stock market drops, Bitcoin and everything else drops, right? So people who are in the cryptocurrency think that it doesn't tie into the stock markets when it does, right? And then it's obvious. So yes, I get it, but this goes back into thinking that we're going to be in control of all things at all times, and we can't be in control of all things at all times. Because if I could be, all y'all have the coin right now. Everybody will hold the coin for the next 5 years, right? And then I say, hey, cash out, and we all be trillionaires. But my point being, we can't control everything, guys, is what I'm saying. And I just want us to stop being so analytical that we have the answers to all things, but we don't have the solution to it. Right? Because we can
start though.
But again, the ticker is CHKA, stands for Cahokia. CHKA is on Solana. You can find it on Dex Screener, Jupiter, Radium, Bird's Eye. Download the Phantom app. It's called the Phantom app, PHANTOM.app. You can download it for your laptop browser. It's a plug-in extension. You can download it on your phone. You can instantly get it. You don't have to do KYC. You know, everything is KYC, know your customer. So you don't have to give any information to them. You don't have to give them any of your personal information. You can download it, keep your privacy, and still invest.
You talking about this? Let me see. I'm gonna try to share it. No, I'm saying this. What you're doing is a great start for people that have all these, questions and comments on it. But this is a great effing start. Don't get me started. But
Thank you, my sister. Thank you. Because again, like I said before, my sister, we can continue to talk about it. Yes, that's family. We can keep talking about it, or somebody got to do something about it. And I've been tired of watching people exploit our people. I've watched our people spend $1,500, $2,000, $2,500 to claim their indigenous status and become identified as a Native American or Aboriginal, and that money never comes back to you. It went in that person's pocket, and they're exploiting you, and they'll never give back to you. This is something that you can chime into, and it's so funny to me because our people will spend $2,500 to reclaim their status, which is all about still your money. At the end of the day, you want the freedom to be able to keep money in your pocket, and you want to claim land, and we ain't got to do none of that. This is literally about you, and I want to see how many of us is going to support it and really chime in, because the cryptocurrency, the Cahokia coin, is just the beginning. The real thing is the blockchain, our own blockchain, where we are helping other people print their own money. We're helping other tribes print their own money and being independent and self-sufficient and not having to worry about federal monies or funding. That's the true value, to be able to give other tribes who either federally recognize or not the independence to be sovereign and be independent and be able to do what's best for their people. That is truly, that's what we're supposed to be doing. That is what is historical, and that's what we need to make happen.
Yes, because I had one of those issues with one of the tribes that is in my bloodline. For the application, it was $500 because the ancestor that I'm connected to is back in the 1700s. And I'm like, seriously, $500?
Yep. You got to pay to be Indian these days.
Yeah, so I can relate to that statement. And it's not worth it when instead you can invest in something that is for the people, by the people, so to speak, for real.
Can you hear me?
Yes, it's just a little staticky in the background.
But I don't listen. Can y'all hear me still?
It's good now.
Yeah,
whatever happened, Siri decided she wanted to kick in and cut out all my audio, so I can't hear you guys anymore. So that's my cue that they're like, okay, you don't talk too much about this mess, because I can't hear nothing. I swear, my screen just blanked out. Siri popped up, and I didn't even call Siri. I don't even have Siri activated on my phone. That's the truth. And Siri just popped up and just blanked my whole screen out, and then just went back out. Now I can't hear you guys, but I'm glad you guys can hear me. And thank y'all for having me on the show. I wish I could hear y'all close out with the conversation, but thank you for entertaining the conversation. Thank everybody for having the great questions. And I look forward to doing this again. And Pa, you, Christina, y'all know I love y'all. I had said I wasn't doing no more interviews for nobody for a long time, but I owe my cousins this last interview, at least for this year. Thank y'all so much. I can't hear you. I swear I can't hear you. This is crazy.
Okay. All right. Peace.
I don't know what to do. All right, family. Well, I'm gonna say Tihi Chulaga. Talk to you guys later. Thank y'all for having me. And everybody, look out for the coin. Please go and purchase the coin, buy the coin, and just hold on to it as the value increase, man. Love y'all.
All right. Love you, Chula.
I'm trying to read lips.
What's up, cuz? We closing out. We had an awesome podcast. Awesome for Mico to grace our podcast. We appreciate him showing up his chi. Anything else, cuz? Before we close all the way out.
That's it for the night. I mean, it's amazing how people think that it's funny. It's funny. I'm gonna keep coming. I'm gonna keep my comment to myself. I'm gonna keep my comment to myself.
Okay, we can talk off air about that, but yeah, Wado Yakoki, Shona Chief, for everybody who tuned in. We appreciate y'all.
And I thank those who asked the questions to being involved tonight in the chat. I really appreciate that. You know what I'm saying? You know, so hopefully some of y'all questions was answered. You know, so yeah, thank y'all for questions, asking the questions, and participating.
Yes. All right. Peace. Y'all have a good night. Have a safe holiday weekend.
Next week we're gonna have Wale Origin on for his birthday next Saturday. So
Oh, he coming to visit.
yeah,
All
he coming to grab
right,
him.
nephew. We'll see you next week.
Yeah,
Next Sunday, 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Next Sunday. See y'all. Peace.
what?